1. Okay, well, this actually did not happen today, but it happened last week. Even made a goddamn throwaway account just in case. Anyways, to my fuck up. We had a very boring day in my lab class. Some of my classmates started fucking around the room, and I noticed that there is 2 buttons placed right on the side of the counters. Not very visible, like it was supposed to be hidden. I asked my friend, "What does that button do?" and all he replied was, "I don't know, but I would not press it." Being the little shitty daredevil that I am, I pressed the 2 buttons a couple times, and look around the room to see if it moves something, or if it's some kind of light switch that our lab instructor installed. A couple seconds passed, and one of the lab instructors asks if anyone wants to make copies for homework. I raised my arm and said I'll do it. About 10 minutes of making copies, I went back to the lab, and when I went inside, everyone was quiet, and my friend was nervously looking at me. I went right next to him, and he told me that someone went into the room and asked, "Who pressed the button?" I just lolled and said that he was bullshitting, but then he asked one of our classmates to prove that he wasn't lying. Lolled even more. Someone actually did go in the lab and asked who pressed the button. Couple seconds after that, one of the program directors came in, asked, "Who pressed the goddamn button?" What the fuck? Why is this so serious? It's just a button. Heard sirens outside, and saw a cop and some firemen on the first floor. It was the goddamn panic button. Fuck! If you don't know what a panic button is, it's a button you press when you are in a panic. When someone tries to shoot up the school, but it won't make an alarm sound, it'll just alert the nearest police station and fire station, or some shit like that. I looked at my friend and he said he won't snitch. But he also said I'm a dumb motherfucker. Our instructor didn't want us to get in trouble, so he said someone might have accidentally bumped into it. To the people asking, and also said to us that if anyone did press it, just don't say anything. Oh, and I think they also charged the school like a couple $1,000s. I told some of the trustworthy people in class that I am the one who pressed the button. And ever since then, if something like a small inconvenience happens in lab, they make fun of me and tell me to try not to press the panic button. 2. This fuck up happened 3 years ago. The backstory is that I had lived in Brussels a few days prior, and assiduously tried to enter the parliament at various hours of the day, during rain and sunshine and morning and evening. I'm a political scientist, and really just wanted to feel the atmosphere of a powerful building, and one of the political process-making institutions of Europe. Since I tried to enter unsuccessfully for a few days, the front door security guard and I had a few friendly chats a few times. Anyhow, the problem was that I was preoccupied, and due to circumstances it took me a while to realize the procedures of entering this building. You needed an invitation from an MP. I had barely any money, or a phone, or internet, so I couldn't get in touch with an MP to get this invitation. Until I finally borrowed a phone from a random person at a cafe, and got an invitation for like 20 minutes from now, with the pirate party. Usually, you have to get these kinds of invitations weeks or months in advance, and I got lucky, and I happily joined the PP on a tour of the building. It started with some boring general knowledge lectures, and then the group of 40-something people moved on to another part of the building, when I decided to split off from the group and go on my merry way to explore the Parliament building. I had lived like a hobo for a few days in Brussels, so I carried with me like one carrier bag and a big black plastic bag filled with various miscellaneous items. I had my visitor's pass attached to my jacket, which was the ticket to get inside. In the entrance to the Parliament it was a huge queue, and 2 desks after each other, looking kind of like an inverted U-shape. On the left side of the entrance there are some official signs telling you how to enter the inner sanctum of the building. It said something like, "Wait here for 2 minutes, then go through to the check-in." So I circumvent the queues, follow these weird rules, just flash my passport at the check-in, and unceremoniously dump my bag and sack at the entrance, behind a counter, and start exploring. I walk around looking at some history and information and generally enjoy myself. After a while I get curious and decide to move away from the general area where people are allowed and start exploring different floors and small windy corridors. I walk happily up to the 7th floor, talk to some random MPs or civil servants or the like, find a closet filled with wine and booze. No, I didn't steal any of that. Just thought it was fun that it was so clearly out in the open, and finally decide that it's time to start heading out. I have explored what I wanted to explore. On the way back to what I assume was the general area where visitors were allowed to fraternize, suddenly 2 security guards approach me. They are of quite a massive stature, and they look quite impressive in their quite fancy jackets. I can imagine them having kept an eye on this person walking at weird places, and leaving big bags unattended at the check-in, and wondering what is he doing. Anyhow, they start questioning me while walking regarding where my bags are, and what I'm doing here and so forth. I happily show them to the entrance to my bags, and tell them I'm just here sightseeing. After we collect my bags, they take me to the back of the building, where I get quite a surprise. I am placed against a pillar surrounded in a half circle by a combined 30 security forces, police and some kind of secret services, at least 3 distinctive groups of security personnel. First we just stand there for a while. Then 2 police officers take me to a wall and search me. I get some more questions about what I was doing there, and I answer truthfully that I was just interested in the history of the institution, etc. Where the police were searching me, there was an L-shaped desk where some civil servants worked. After a while, a random lady who works behind the desk, out of the blue, greets me by name in my native tongue and wonders if all is okay. I say it is. The main door security guard also asked me some questions. They want to contact my next of kin, and I was on the outs with my mother at the moment, so I refer them to my grandmother who barely speaks English. The main door security guard is trying to have the conversation, but his English is not that good and he mispronounces some words quite badly. Anyhow, after being in the catacombs or their likes for a while, I get escorted by 3 police officers to a police car, and we drive away to custody where I stay for anything between 6 hours and 12 hours. I don't remember, not very long at least. 3. This happened yesterday at the local grocery store while my parents were checking out. I noticed the guy bagging the groceries had Japanese tattooed on his arm. Now, I'm not fluent at all, so initially I only understood to eat, but a quick 2-second Google search clued me in real quick. So obviously I had to ask him if he knew what was on his arm. Like, who knows? Maybe this kid is just super edgy or whatever. This is the gist of how the conversation went. Me: do you know what that on your arm says? Him: yeah, it says brothers for life. Me: are you sure about that? Him: yeah, I had my friend translate it for me. Me: that's not... I really think you need to give your friend a call. Him: can you read Japanese? Me: yep. By this point my parents had finished paying the cashier. My dad had tuned into the conversation, and I was ready to leave it at that. Before you yell at me, I know the way I handled that conversation was crappy of me. I should have either kept my mouth shut or given the correct translation. But I try to avoid all types of conflict, whether that be disappointing someone, being the bearer of bad news, or what have you. But wait, this is not the end of the story. Anyway, we thanked him for bagging our stuff, told him to have a nice night, and started walking away. My mother wanted a play-by-play of my chit-chat with the tattoo guy because... oh my god, you initiated a conversation with someone. And my father had only caught the tail end. Anyway, when I got to the bit about what the guy's tattoo actually means, we were at the car. I pull out my phone and brought up Google Translate, because I don't like being vulgar in front of my parents. My dad laughed, chastised me for not telling the guy, grabbed my phone out of my hand, hopped out the car, and ran back into the store. According to my dad, the guy was like, "Shit." No one almost died or anything, but I apparently really bummed someone out, and ruined their motivation to visit or get stationed, soon to be enlisted, in Japan. As for the moral of the story, don't let your American friend dictate your foreign language tattoo, or you might end up with "eat ass" on your forearm. 4. I just went to a Panic at the Disco concert, and it was spectacular. I was in a super good mood as we were leaving, and we had to go through a wall of hanging curtains. I was trying to be dramatic and funny in front of my 2 friends that were with me, so I decided to whip the curtains apart and stride confidently through. Little did I know I was heading straight for the bar for the curtain frame where 2 of the curtains ended. I ran straight into the bar full force with my nose, hard. I was in the middle of blinking when it happened, so what I noticed when I opened my eyes was the fact that the entire wall of curtains was falling. I caught the bar I ran into, and was able to save the whole thing from coming down on me, thank goodness. Then the pain came, and then the blood. You see, I have a very sensitive nose, and I can get nosebleeds if the wind blows the wrong way, I swear. So it was no surprise that blood came gushing out of my face. When I looked up, a sea of people exiting the concert were looking at me, then quickly looked away as if they hadn't seen. I did see a few trying not to laugh. As of now, my nose has finally stopped bleeding, but I have a terrible throbbing pain in my face. The thing that hurts the worst, though, is my wounded ego. 5. I'm finally past this enough to write about it. I've been rattled by it for days, and I don't rattle easily. This will be long, I apologize in advance. Preface: I'm renovating an old brownstone in Brooklyn. These are row houses all connected to a common and old as the city sewer system. Earlier this week, I decided to try shore up a vertical section that had sagged, and broke some of the retention straps that reinforced it. Luckily, this was on a branch of plumbing we weren't using, but still, I'd be bringing in a plumber to do the actual fitment work. But this, I felt, couldn't wait, as it was an absurdly large cast iron stack weighing hundreds of pounds. 8 inches pipe out to the street, which is about double what is really needed for residential. I'm wearing a cheapo LED headlamp, which is at best pretty dim, 20 to 30 lumens tops. The basement is very dark and shadowy, with a few bulbs off in the main part of the basement, and that's it. The pipe is coming down from several floors above, and is in the darkest corner of the basement. I'd been noticing some water bugs, a polite name for the largish flat American cockroach that often inhabit basements. Different from the brown German roach that will invade your cabinets, but no less gross. Now, to keep things in context, some, to me at this point, was more than one, alive at a time. So several is a more accurate description. Nothing infestation level, several, a few, a handful. Given the age of the house and how long it's been empty, not unexpected. I hate bugs, by the way. I've broken bones, had wounds deep enough to require multiple layers of stitches, and was hit with the gut-wrenching realization that human flesh smells like hot dog when cooked, by unknowingly grabbing a freshly welded piece of metal. I'd rather go through any of that again than have a bug of significant size crawl across me. My irrational fear here will maybe explain some of the poor decision-making you're about to read. So anyway, as I start attaching a retaining strap to the lowest portion of cast iron pipe stack, I hear it. I'm not aware what I am hearing, but I'm hearing something. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm crouched inches away from the stack, about to stand up so I can bear hug this thing into place and relieve the strain it's been putting on the supporting brace and other straps. Ever play a horror video game where you have a flashlight as your main or only source of light? How you have to scan slowly with only a small field of illuminated vision. That's my lighting situation down there, in this corner. There I am, face about a foot away from this pipe, with a small cone of light as my only sight line. As I raise my head upward, revealing a small portion of the pipe at a time, something is off about what I'm seeing. My brain just isn't putting it together. So I adjust my headlamp a bit and lean in a bit closer, looking up along the length of this pipe, pitch black becoming suddenly illuminated in a slow reveal as I sweep my sight and light across. That's when I realize I'm seeing shadows. Time itself slows. Shadows of antennae. Hundreds of pairs of dancing, twitching antennae. Exaggerated both in size and apparent movement against the wall behind the pipe by the stark directional light of a headlamp LED. It also occurs to me what I've been hearing. That white noise, barely audible. The rustling leaves, etc. That was the sound of these bugs. What was likely just a few seconds stretched on for me until I actually felt myself snap out of it. And I jump up and backward, away from this small corner of hell. I'm not okay at this point. I slowly withdraw to regroup. I hate bugs. I locate a big-ass jug of bug defense spray, intended for keeping yard bugs out of the house. I locate my brightest flashlights. I prepare for battle. Steeled for what I have to do, I head back down and reevaluate the situation. Only there weren't really hundreds of pairs of antennae. Just a few dozen. The bugs were clearly just hiding on the back, dark side of the pipe, because I invaded their space with my LED light. Realistically, how many can fit behind there? And they weren't that big. Maybe 1 to 1.5 inches long or so. I can do this. The bug spray is just a hand sanitizer attached to a gallon or so jug. I tentatively give it a squeeze, aimed in the general direction of the back of the pipe. I still need to wrestle this thing into place, so I'm hoping to scatter these few dozen bugs so that I may continue the repair. I'm still not prepared, clearly, but I had no idea yet. So anyway, I spray a single shot, tentatively. Fucking apocalypse! With a few thousand lumens of light on this pipe now, the bugs with nowhere to go or hide, and some asshole spraying an irritating chemical at them, they erupt from behind the pipe. They start dropping down to the floor. The rustling, which was barely audible earlier, is now frantic, and my fear response is lighting up as I start squeezing that spray trigger with more urgency. I have only one thought. What have I done? I could have, and should have, walked away, gotten something stronger to deal with this, hired someone qualified. But no, there I am, spraying the shit out of these bugs with something that only barely seems to be killing them, slowly. Then I see it. As I work my way around the side of the pipe, with all the extra light I've brought. From a different angle, I can see that the pipe had developed a large, gaping crack, running almost the length of the pipe. It's wide enough to fit a hand, flat through it. I'm not simply fighting a few dozen bugs hanging on the backside of a pipe. I just declared war on an army of direct from the NYC sewer system roach beasts. So I spray a few shots directly into the hole. So hey, remember that scene from The Mummy with Brendan Fraser? When the scarabs swarmed in ocean-like waves and devoured people? This was kind of like that. The previous response I had triggered was a puny apocalypse, very tiny indeed. Bugs, nay, angry roach beasts from the 7th level of hell, are spewing out from inside the pipe at this point. They're forcefully ejecting themselves from this sewer main pipe, and due to the inconvenience of being in crammed quarters with nowhere to go, they're all around me, under me, on me. I'm spraying and stomping and spraying and stomping. I'm sweating like crazy. I hear my own heartbeat in my ears. My fight or flight response is at full throttle. I may have been screaming. I can imagine some combination of terror screams and war cries. I was alone, so this is completely unverified, but let's assume I was screaming, and spraying, and stomping. My forearms are burning from squeezing this damn trigger by now, and switching hands as I get tired. My breathing is heavy. I'm wearing down. So, remember Game of Thrones? The epic battle scene at the Wall from a few seasons back? The war drums, the battle horn, when the wildlings brought their giants and woolly mammoths. Yep, so my barely effective poison juice that I've been spraying in and around the pipe must have worked its way down to an as-yet unknown layer of the netherworld, which brought forth the giants, desperately trying to escape that pipe of mild discomfort. Now my friends from down south will tell me that a 2.5, maybe 3-inch palmetto bug is pretty fucking normal. But not to this city boy, they aren't. Watching these things emerge from a pipe as you're fighting a war to save humanity itself is pretty damn demoralizing. I'm ready to give up, let them take me. I imagine myself being slowly devoured by these giant bug beasts. It's at this point that my logical brain takes over from my emotional one, and I start grabbing newspaper, rags, and anything else I can find and start stuffing the crack. I stem the tide of bugs coming out of the pipe, and concentrate on the ones that are now wandering aimlessly, slowly across the floor. More stomping and spraying, but less screaming. The spray was working, eventually. It wasn't strong enough to kill instantly, but did kill. This will become a source of regret, but I'll explain in a moment. With the adrenaline rush gone, and dying roaches carpeting the basement, I finally have enough presence of mind to ask myself, what the hell am I even doing? I grab some duct tape, a big piece of cardboard, and hastily start taping it around the pipe and crack. I pour the remaining part of the gallon directly into the pipe, close it all up, and go upstairs. I didn't talk the rest of the night. My wife, when she came home, knew something was wrong but didn't prod too much and just let me be. I was rattled beyond measure. Just typing this out made my skin crawl all over again. She laughed the hardest she has in a long time when I told her the story the next day, but I wasn't totally okay for a day or two. So fast forward a little. The gift that keeps on giving. Seems like this product is a slow, long-lasting killer. 4 days out now. I'm still finding dead or dying roaches. I clean them up, come back later, find more, repeat. The rate is slowing down. Instead of a couple dozen every few hours, we're down to about 6 or 8 emerging overnight. Haven't called anyone in to replace the main yet, because now that I see the severity of the crack, that changes the way I'll need to approach it. I'll have to open up some walls upstairs, and I'm betting the entire stack has to be replaced, roof to basement. I have decided instead to enjoy my long 4th of July weekend, and mentally recover before revisiting. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 51. Big thanks to everybody who allowed me to use their stories and who sent stories in for use in this video. If you are a subscriber and you've sent me a TIFU, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about them. It's just because I only do these videos once a week, they're the ones that tend to take me a little longer to get around to using. But don't worry, I will be using at least 1 or 2 in the coming weeks. Well, if anyone's wondering, got that, I was talking about making cold brew coffee. Well, I was very lucky to get a quick delivery yesterday using the, if anyone's tried the Amazon Prime Now app. Well, just by sheer luck, they had everything I needed on that, so I managed to get it within a couple hours. And it didn't turn out perfect, but it wasn't too bad. I'm going to tweak the recipe a little bit, probably make a coarser ground. I think I ground it too fine. But I was just, a new toy basically in my coffee grinder, so I was playing with it. And I'll try a coarser grind, and I might even try different coffee beans till I find something that's just perfect. But it actually turned out not bad, all in all. So we'll certainly make again. I might even try using the little infuser I got for making cold brew tea as well. It might be quite nice for. Got a little bit of hot weather left, I'm sure, before the autumn comes. So it might be quite nice for that. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.